Hi guys, I'm Ritika and welcome to What's the Masala? It has been a very long year and a half since I first started this podcast, and honestly I'm talking as if my podcast had loads of episodes and it was really popular and it was a massive success, and I took a very long break from stardom when in fact no, I actually had only like 3 episodes. But the reason why I stopped was, first of all, I kind of realized that look, I was in my final year of university, starting a podcast, it was not a sensible move. It was probably the most stupidest thing I could have ever done, starting a podcast when I got like 75% of my degree to complete in 1 year. Yeah, not a very smart move for me. Second of all, I kind of realized I just wasn't happy with the content I was putting out there. I felt like I was too hard, like trying to be like this proper sophisticated woman. And let's be real, I don't know why I was trying. Like everyone just knows that's not me. I'm pretty much like a full-time bagwasa. I bagwas a lot. Yeah, like I talk like loads of nonsense for those who don't know what bagwas means. So I thought, why don't I just embrace this bagwasness I have and this nonsense I have? And yeah, this podcast is officially my space where I can do whatever the hell I want and everybody can just listen to me and my nonsense basically, and maybe listen to me how bad my life is going at the moment or how great things are, or mainly how bad things are, because right now after graduating, I don't know what it is. I didn't really believe it when people say that, yeah, after graduation it's downhill. It really is downhill. I think you enter this rat race feeling where it's like, oh my God, literally my life has turned into 9 to 5 and it's just not fun. So I think with this podcast, it's more of like a social relief for me, and maybe it's a social relief to like the 2 viewers who might want to listen to my podcast once in a while. See, another reason why I started this podcast is because I realized I have a special talent, and it's yapping all the time. I'm a professional yapper. I yap and yap and yap like a little chihuahua, and like that's not a reference to my height at all. But no, I'm like a little dog. I just keep yapping and yapping and yapping until someone really has to shut me up, like shout at me to shut up. But I have a proven like example of this. I'm going to give my friend's name called Dev. His name's not actually Dev, by the way. But Dev decided to call me cooking one day, and I realized the only reason why he called me while he was cooking was to waste his time while cooking. And I don't know if that friend's going to listen to this podcast, but this is a proven fact. I literally wasted about 35 minutes of his time. And yeah, he was probably really grateful that I wasted 35 minutes of his time. But at the same time, I don't know whether that's a compliment or insult. But anyway, from that small little stupid story of mine, I think I reached a point where I actually appreciate being brown as well. And I'm kind of sick of seeing this brown bashing culture on the internet. It's like constantly people have podcasts and TikTok. They're constantly like, oh my God, yeah, brown girls, they're too independent and they're ruining our morals. And then brown girls are like brown boys and mama's boys, and they're too attached to their mothers, and brown parents are so toxic. And I just think like we got to let that narrative go. It's just really frustrating. Give this podcast more of appreciation to maybe brown parents and brown guys and girls, because I feel like I'm fed up of it. I think we all need to realize that it's so important that we recognize that how good it is to be brown and appreciate it more, because once we can start appreciating it and actually supporting one another, we'll stop this like somewhat hate on the internet for them. So basically what I'm going to be doing in this episode today is going to be reading some Reddit stories and giving my uncensored, unfiltered reaction, because trust me, some of these stories are actually wild. They're like, what the hell? Not too wild, but I do find them quite funny when I read them. So yeah, if you guys want to listen to the Reddit stories, stay tuned. Okay, so I'm going to start with the first story, and this is a really cringe dating story that I found. I think it's quite popular, this dating story. I don't know whether I've actually seen it before elsewhere, but once I read it, I was like, yeah, this is really cringe. But honestly, guys, dating in the brown community, it is rough. It is hard out there. I have been on the dating apps myself. I was on Vanita, Hinge, Dilmill, and it's just really hard to find someone. I can't explain it to you, but I just don't feel like you actually match with the people that you want to be with for the rest of your life, and that's just the truth. It's very rare for people to find like people they want to be with, other than like TikTok stars who get probably paid to say they were like matched on Hinge, for example. I don't know. Like, I know that one TikTok star, her name is Tanvi, she matched with her partner on Hinge, but I don't know whether how true that is. If it is true, good for her. If it's not, then that's a lie. It's a scam, because most of my friends who are also on these dating apps, they've never matched with anybody that they actually want to be with, or it's never gone successful. So I don't know. You guys can let me know whether your dating app stories have been successful or not. Okay, so swiftly moving on from my tragic love life, the story goes like this, guys. So this actually happened in London. I, 26-year-old female, matched with this guy, 28-year-old male, on a dating app. He looked good and he had a decent job and seemed normal, so obviously red flag right there. We decided to meet for dinner, and within the first 10 minutes I knew I had made a mistake. This man had the audacity to order for me. I said I wanted biryani, but he said, nah, biryani's too heavy for a first date. Let's get something light. Excuse me? The first red flag. Then he started talking about how he expects his future wife to stay at home and take care of the house while he works. I was sipping my mango lassi, mentally preparing for my escape plan. The final straw, he told me he doesn't date dark-skinned girls, to my face. I was like, bro, do you have a mirror? Because you're darker than me. I left without saying a word and blocked him everywhere. The audacity of some men, I swear. Honestly, when I first read this story, I felt so bad for this girl because I was thinking like, okay, no, well done to her. Like, she just left and she blocked him, fine. But her time was wasted, and her being told that to her face that, oh, I don't date dark-skinned girls. It's so stupid. I can't even, you know what, his parents actually should be ashamed of him that he's been brought up like that. I think it's disgusting. People who insult you on your looks, like when you're going on dates or dating, or even when you're married, they tend to be really insecure themselves. I have learnt this the hard way. If someone insults the way you look, it's because they're very insecure about themselves, basically. That is the only reason why they do that. The only reason he did that was to try to make her feel like I said, inferior, and try to be like, oh, you should be thankful to me that I've taken you out on a date. It's like, excuse me? Like, as when you start seeing yourself as the prize, I've realised, then like nobody else matters. And that applies for boys and girls, basically. I think the next part to digest from this is clearly the fact this guy said he wants a housewife. I think it's so terrible when people do this. I'm not trying to say all brown people do this. Not all brown guys are like they want a housewife. I have a lot of friends who do want their partner to work in the future and continue to work. But some brown boys do have that small-minded mentality that they've got from Andrew Tate or from their traditional families. They don't understand, first of all, in this economy, one person working does not work unless you're like a billionaire. Second of all, you're trapping someone who has an education or might have a existing work life into four walls. It's not fair. Like, what is she going to do all day in the house? What, just clean and cook? Like, that's not a life for her. And if she goes out with her friends, it's almost going to be a thing of like, oh, her friends might be working, and she'll start to feel like she's missing out on stuff. I think that's why boys need to understand that it's really important for women to work as well, equally. Like, I think it's important that especially if you've got a degree, and like if you have a working life, like I have a degree that's worth £80,000. If I decide to become a housewife, it's like, why the hell did I do my degree? Like, I have achieved nothing. Like, I think working is such an achievement and such a character development thing. You learn so much from the workplace. You learn like how to be patient, how to answer back. I think if you take a woman's work away from her, she becomes powerless, which is kind of maybe subliminal, like how do you say that word? Subliminal? Maybe that little under message, I'm going to say that under message is for men to strip away that power. I don't know. Not all brown boys, though. I'm giving that disclaimer because I know a lot of brown boys who aren't like this, but there are a few out there, basically, that I've met on the dating apps. Okay, moving on to the next story, guys. This is a wedding story, and I quite like wedding stories. I find them very, very, like, masala. There's a lot of spice to them. Anyway, so I, 27-year-old female, got engaged last year to my amazing fiancé, 32-year-old male. Everything was going great until my masi decided she wanted to make my wedding all about her. She kept saying we would wait until her daughter gets engaged first because it looks bad if I get married before her. Excuse me? What kind of outdated logic is that? My cousin isn't even dating anyone. And now my masi is rallying the family against me, saying I'm being selfish. The best part, my cousin doesn't even care. She told me she wants me to get married first so she can have fun at my wedding without the pressure. But my masi? Nope. She's acting like I committed a crime. Brown families are truly something else. What we have is the case of the jealous masi. Dun dun dun. Dramatic effects, but I can't afford dramatic effects because I'm using a free software to edit my podcast. No, this is the jealous masi who can't stand the fact that someone else is getting married before her daughter. I think it's actually stupid. I feel like these type of family members need to be told off by like an elder family member. And I know this person has said that like everyone's rallying against her, but the cousin needs to speak up in front of the whole family and say that, look, I don't want to get married right now, and I'm happy for the main character of the story to get married first. I hate relatives like this, like, you know, the jealous, like, cousins. Like, I have it in my family that, like, we have one cousin who probably married well, and now if I was to marry even better than her, or if someone else was to marry better than her, then I know that a lot of family members would get jealous over it, and I'm pretty sure it exists in every family dynamic because I've heard it everywhere. Like, my family dynamic's like this, but I'm just shocked that her parents haven't stuck up for her more than anything. I think her parents should get involved. I don't know. That's my opinion. I think the cousin and her own mom and dad should stick up for her so that she can get married first because it's not fair on the couple. Okay, guys, the last story. I, 30-year-old female, have always been in a complicated relationship with my mum, but ever since my brother, 28-year-old male, got married, it has been worse. She is obsessed with my bhabhi. She buys her expensive gifts and always takes her side in arguments and literally told me you should be more like her. Excuse me? Last week I was sitting next to my mum and she looked up and down at me and went, see how she carries herself? So graceful, why don't you act like that? I was like, Mum, I have a job, I pay my bills and I take care of you. What else do you want? She just sighed and said, you won't understand. I love my bhabhi, but sometimes I feel like I'm being replaced. Anyone else's mum do this, or is mine just a professional hater? I don't know whether the mom's being a professional hater, but I do think that the mom and daughter do have a very strained relationship, and it just could be with the fact that, like, the mom wants the daughter to behave more like the bhabhi, how she always imagined her own daughter to be like, and because it hasn't fulfilled the mother's expectations, she's just kind of nitpicking and finding frustration. And it's not the daughter's fault. The daughter's being who she is. I think the mom has to come acceptance of who her daughter is, but the daughter has to learn how to bear those things, because Asian parents are always going to compare. Like, I think it's in the blood of Asian parents, or at least that generation, to compare their children against each other. One thing I think is nice is that the mom is obsessing over the bhabhi. That is something that I've not really seen of much still, to be honest. I think it's sweet that the mom does have a really nice relationship with the bhabhi. However, she should have equally of a nice relationship with her own daughter and try to understand that her daughter is herself. I think it's good that everyone has like an individual characteristic about themselves. Like, from my own experience, like when I used to go to the mandir, I used to be like a very big tomboy when I was younger, and I was only like 14, but all these aunties, they used to come up to me and say like, oh beta, it's fine, someone will marry you because you're really smart, and yeah, you're a tomboy, it's fine. And I'm thinking like, what, because I was fat? People used to class me as a tomboy because I was fat and I played like video games. Like, I used to play a bit of PlayStation. I don't think that's a tomboy, because I really had like a girly side to me as well. I liked things. I was obsessed with K-pop. I used to fangirl over K-pop so hard, but I was a tomboy because I was fat. Like, it's such a shame that people put those labels on you. I was labeled very hard as a kid. Like, even like some of the girls who are my age, they used to label me as like fat. Like, I just knew it. I've heard it myself. It's one of those. But no, I think it's good. Everyone has their own characteristics, because I have like a character development from that when I was 14. I still like video games. I like Star Wars. I like Jurassic Park a lot. I like dinosaurs a lot. I think that like one thing to take away from it is that hopefully the daughter doesn't start to hate the bhabhi, because it looks like that like the daughter is starting to hate the bhabhi, and she's got to kind of get over the fact that like her mom's acting like this. I think sometimes as brown kids, if we stay quiet about things and just learn to accept our brown parents for who they are, it's fine. It's kind of like the movement with the genders, for example. It's being told now that like, oh, there's a third gender, they, them, and you have to respect them and you have to call them by their pronouns. I should be able to call you what I want. I shouldn't have to be scrutinized or told. If I know that your assigned gender at birth was he, him, and you still have those parts of he, him, I will call you he, him. I do not want to see you in the same bathroom as me, and that is the truth. And I do not have to be forced to accept it. In that sense, guys, I'm applying it to like the brown parents, that sometimes they can't accept it and you have to just stay quiet and move on. And the best thing that you can do as a person is that in the next generation, or when you have your kids, is not to pass on those same beliefs, but you still respect your parents for who they are. Because in Hinduism, for example, you know, parents are like, you know, seen as the equivalent of God, and you should respect your parents no matter what happens. Sometimes the way they have thought and thinking is the best. There's no like parent guidebook out there. I realize parents make mistakes all the time, same as kids. We make mistakes all the time. You know, the best quote I saw on the internet like about a year ago was like, what was it, like, don't like hate too much on your parents, or like don't hate too much on your mom or dad. It's their first time living too, and it's really normal for them to make mistakes. I get it, like maybe it's really hard for you if they make really bad mistakes, but definitely just understand the fact like they don't intentionally mean everything. They were also brought up like a certain way up, I guess. But yeah, that's the end of the podcast. I'm happy to have wasted about 18 to 20 minutes of your time, guys. If you enjoyed my podcast, please tell me. Give me honest feedback to everybody who's listening. I know that the first few people who are going to listen are my friends and family, so please give me honest feedback on what do you think. If you enjoyed the Reddit stories, if you want to hear Reddit stories, let me know. If you think I should speak slower or quicker or a bit more clearer, please let me know. I really appreciate the harsh criticism. I'm trying to become thick-skinned because I'm already thick-minded. You can find this podcast on Apple, Spotify and YouTube. I'm going to start posting clips on TikTok. I don't know whether to show my face or not, but I have a really ugly face sometimes in the evening, so I don't know how I feel about showing my face. But anyway, yeah, so this is Ritika, and I'll see you guys on the next one of What's the Masala?